Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So you may have heard recently that I've got a new track coming out on Joyride on the 9th of Feb 2022. It's called Apocalypse. You can listen to the track by clicking the link in the top right of your screen, which should be appearing right about now. I think Joyride is an absolute top label. I'm so happy that they agreed to take Apocalypse and release it. So in today's video, I'm going to basically take you behind the scenes at my mixdown and show you everything that I did on this track. I'll go through all the mix decisions I made, starting with the kicks, bass and percussion today in this video. The idea being that hopefully what you learn here today, what I show you today, will help you to make the right mix decisions so you can get your track on Joyride or any other fantastic hard trance labels that are out there. So if you want to hear more, just hang around. So this is our project. It was made in FL20. Now I hope you've familiarized yourself with what the whole track sounds like, because we're just going to be looking at specific elements in this video. So the first thing we're going to start off with is the kick. So I'm just going to go and just mute the kick bus. The kick on its own sounds like this. So quite deep. A fair amount of low in there. So I'm just going to quickly go through how that kick was made. It consists of two kicks basically. I've got a main kick and a top kick. I'm going to show you how they kind of interact with each other. So the top kick sounds like this on its own. It does sound similar, but I guarantee you if I start turning off and on the top kick, you will hear a massive amount of difference. Take a listen and see if you can hear the difference. The top kick just gives the kick much more of a snap and a presence in the higher frequencies, makes it much more audible in the overall mix, especially if I put the bass in, so you can really kind of hear the difference between when the top kick is in and when it's not. So we'll just go through some of the mix decisions I made with the kick. So first things first, I've got an EQ. This is a horrific resonant frequency. See if you can hear the difference with this in and without. Really, that had to go. And this is just providing some air. This is a similar kind of mix frequency, and this is for a bit of presence in the mix. So not too much going on with that EQ. Second is R bass. You all know what R bass does. This was set at 80 Hertz. Just really kind of fills out that low end there. It's the whole reason for that. Kashmir Essentials is something that I've made a video on before, so I won't dwell on this too much. Suffice to say that it does make a fair amount of difference. Again, just all about kind of filling up that kick. I've got quite a lot of air on and quite a lot of mid, and also the sub is in the same key as the bass. I've got another EQ after that, just making very surgical changes, a little bit out of 550, and again a slight boost in the top end. Next thing you've got here is the Baby Audio Parallel Aggressor. This is what really kind of finishes off the sound and makes the sound for me. If you have a listen to the difference with it off and on. Just really kind of adds to the body of the overall kick there for me. Now we're going to take a quick look at the top kick on its own. There's only two things on the top kick. A fab filter, which basically takes off everything just under 1K out, and then an Oxford inflator. So let's just quickly have a listen. That's literally all it sounds like on its own. So without the fab filter, you can see it really kind of clashes with the kick without all of that low removed. And then the inflator just really puts the presence in the top kick really for me. Now, both of these kicks are being routed to a kick bus, which has a bit more on it. It's got a mag EQ. There's no air on here, 'cause I'd already probably put in enough air with the other EQs and stuff. Mainly, this is just doing a boost about 2.5K. Gives it a nice little bit of kind of harshness in the mid-range. Then you've got Waves Vitamin, which is an exciter. Not a lot of difference. I still felt it kind of needed a bit more of a boost. And then another inflator. Last but by no means least, we've got a filter, but that's just for for filtering during the track. That doesn't really affect the sound. At the end of it, this is what the span says the kick looks like. So that's pretty much it. That's just two kicks mixed in together. They fit really well. They really complement each other. They do completely different things. I don't think it's that complicated, especially if you've seen my kick builder video, where it's a lot more to it, a lot more options there. But this is fairly straightforward for me. Moving on now to take a look at our bass. So this is what the bass sounds on its own. And with the kick again. This is a Mixdown project, so there are quite a few bits that have already been rendered in place. It saves on processing power, and I personally think that sampled audio reacts better, especially with things like EQ and distortion, when it's an audio as opposed to actually being generated by a VST. But that's just my opinion. There's probably no basis for that. So the bass is really simple processing here. You've literally got one EQ, a little bit of a low cut, dip at 69 to make space for the kick, and a very slight bump at 7.2K. You've got a balance because the overall kind of stereo field of the kick was slightly off, so I literally had to pan it 3% to the right. As you can see, if you look at the fader here, if you look at the feedback, you'll see very slightly stereo fielded, or the field is stereo slightly, very slightly to the left. Next thing I've got is the sidechain. I use Cable Guy's volume shaper. I have split this across the bands, so you've got the low band, which is like this, and then the mid band, which is basically like that. If you mute this, obviously it's going to sound terrible. That's fairly straightforward. And the last plugin in the chain is Waves 01. You kind of use this really as a clipper, because if you look at the gain reduction here, you're not going to see a lot. You're literally just going to see just a very small amount of gain reduction. So just kind of clipping off the top, keeping the volume down where possible. Now both the kick and the bass go into a kick and bass bus. This is just kind of try and glue them together a little bit. Two things on this. We have a Waves C4, which is a multi-band compressor. Quite harsh, quite nasally without it, especially the bass in some of these low-mid frequencies. Which, as you can see, low-mid here between 128 and just under a K. That's probably doing the most work. And then lastly, it's just this, which essentially operates as somewhat of a limiter, I believe. Does add quite a bit of saturation and a really nice tone, I find, to the overall sound. So that's the kick and bass. Now we're going to move over and check out the percussion. So this is what it sounds like with the kick, bass, and all the percussion in. All right, let's decode that. First thing we have here is clap. So this is sending through to a reverb. There is a bit of reverb on, there is a percussion reverb send, which we'll get to later. So we have, on the clap, we have an EQ, just cutting out everything below 150 and everything above 16K. The Waves Trans X, which is a transient designer. Let's see what it sounds like without it. Free fast distort. Doesn't really sound much like a clap without it, does it? And lastly, Waves R compressor. It sounds very short without the compressor. The compressor kind of always gives it more of a sustain and makes it sound a lot longer. See, it makes a really big difference. Next up is the ride. literally again, it's sent through a little bit of reverb and just a simple EQ boosting the highs. Really straightforward, doesn't need to be anything particularly crazy. It is panned 30% right. On the opposite of that, we then have the open hi-hat. Again, a little bit of reverb sending through to the reverb send, and again, just an EQ. Now I've made sure that they these two don't clash, because obviously while they are panned right and left, we still want to kind of stop them from clashing in that really top space. So as you can see, one is up in the really highs, about what is that? It's about 10k, and the other one's boosted about 6.5, and this one's dipped at 6.6. So the idea being here that they don't completely clash. And I think that did the job there. So they're sufficiently out of each other's way. They don't get in each other's way, basically. So that's what you want. Next is closed hi-hat. So I wanted this to take a really specific frequency range. So you can see, hence the really kind of sharp EQ settings. Without it, it sounds like this. Just really focuses down the sound. Give it a bit of movement with the towel flanger. And then a lovely bit of distortion with ill-formed crusher. Yeah, I didn't want those really top-end frequencies anyway. A little bit of the stereo enhancer. And another sidechain. Okay, so all in it sounds something like this. A few more bits of percussion to go. So we have, which is kind of just like it's almost like a crash, but it's not a crash, and it with tons of delay on it. So you've got simple EQ. Now this delay, as you can see here, this delay, if you remember, this is if you remember the peak controller I put on this kick, that is responding to that kick. So that is where that sidechain is coming from. And that's just to give the delay a little bit more space for the kick, so it doesn't just completely go over everything. Okay, next up we have another loop. This has already been really heavily distorted, in case you can't tell. So all I needed to do on top of that, a little bit of EQ. Just to kind of bring it out a bit, and again, another bit of side chaining. I really didn't like that first bit, which is why I've put in such a strange curve for some percussion. But I mean, I think maybe you'll agree. Let me know in the comments. Do you think that it works with it? Nah, I still stand by my decision. Last thing we're looking at is the crash. So let's get the crash on. Bit more going on here. So you've got an EQ, as you might expect, with the sides boosted specifically. Transient processor to make the kind of sound last a bit longer. Delay and reverb, but again, these are the sidechain to the kick. So if you watch closely. And then one more EQ just to clean it up, especially around this 2.9 or near just under 3K range. See if you can hear the difference. Can you hear that? Can you hear that horrible resonance? Yeah, that's horrible. That had to go. Just quickly on the reverb that some of the percussion is sending through to. So it's the Arts acoustic reverb. A lot of people know this. It's quite a short decay time, 0.228 seconds. A very, very, very small amount of pre-delay, a small amount of tack, and zero spread, basically. So massive, massive room. This is what it sounds like without any reverb. Just really kind of sits it within the mix so much better. And yeah, it's really is quite that straightforward. All of the percussion is going through to another bus again. Love a good bus. This has a little bit of bus compression. As you can see there, it really is just a little bit. I didn't feel I needed more than that. And then Cymatics Origin. This is a saturator, really. A little bit of saturation, not too much. But again, just kind of really adds to the sound, warms it up, makes it sound so much better than it does without it. And that really is pretty much it. That is literally everything that was done to my percussion, my kicks and my basses. Just goes to show it does not have to be that difficult to be able to write and produce release ready Hard Trance. If I can do it, then you can do it. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Part 2 will be coming very soon. This is going to include all of the leads and all of the effects and all the kind of other sounds that makes a track a track. If you want to buy the track, I will put a link in the description to Beatport, so you can grab it when it comes out on the 9th of Feb. If you're more of a streamer, I'll also include links to Spotify and Tidal as well. Any support you guys can give me, that would be great. And if you're not interested in buying it, if it's not quite your sound, then please, by all means, just like, share, comment, subscribe on this video and to my channel, and that would be great.